Howdy folks, I'm Aaron, welcome to those joining me. Today is going to be a tip video and it's going to be about jointing with biscuits. And I don't mean sticking two hobnobs together. Okay then folks, so this is what I want to talk about on this video. Biscuit jointers, get it out of the way. Firstly, I think they're amazing. They don't give you any sort of structural properties really. Some of the biscuits do expand to hold the joints, etc. But as a strength sort of joint, they're not really very good for that. But I wouldn't use them for that anyway. This is just a simple sort of £50 special job, but it does the trick for me. I've got another one down there which is a bit smaller, to use. Get my words out. I think what I'll do, I'll go through a couple of features on the biscuit jointers for those who do not know, and then I've got a little jig which I use for my biscuit jointer, for predominantly what I use my biscuit jointer for, which is the legs on my radiator covers. I make a lot of those, so I made a quick jig for holding the pieces, which is very simple but very handy. Right, so obviously with this one you've got your handle. Pull that in. That does keep it on automatically, and it does help with the safety features as well. You've got your extraction here, so when you're plunging in your dust and the waste removal comes out of there 9 times out of 10. They do clog up, but you just 4 screws, clean it off. Jobs are good. And always unplug it though when you're getting into the bladed area of anything. On this one, just turn it around. On this one you've got a little dial here, and it's got 3 features. So you've got your 0, that's your 0 biscuit. You've got 10 to 10 biscuit. You've got 20, which is 20 biscuit, and you've got M, which is maximum. The numbers relate to the size of biscuits. So these are your number 0 biscuits, and then these are your number 20 biscuits. So you can see the size difference in those. Number 20 is the biggest biscuit you can get. 0 is the smallest one you can get. I use number 20 a lot. Got a whole tub full of them. Due to the fact that they don't hold any strength properties, I generally go for the cheaper ones from Toolstation. They're about £8 for a bag of 200, which lasts me a good week or so. I mean, when I'm putting 3 in each leg, it's, you know, they can be used quite fast. So these are Beech, which they say that they expand when the glue gets on them. I think these are some sort of ply laminated versions. They don't expand, but like I say, I don't want them to. They're purely just for alignment for me, and they work pretty good. So that's the setting. Obviously you would correspond the setting on here to the biscuit you use. There's a little arrow down here which you line up, so that's lined up for 20, 10. I very rarely change it. I have used the 0s on a couple of jobs, but yeah. So number 20 relates to the biscuit you're using. You've got a little stop little release lever here, which is a tighten down job. And then on there is all of your angles. See if you can see that. Focus. That's focusing. So you've got 10 and it goes all the way up to 90 degrees, which if you're going onto a flat piece, you would have that flat on the bed and then you could plunge in like that. I keep it on 0 and lock it down, and then I know that's perfectly 90 degrees, and then when I cut my legs I just reference off the bottom of that. Okay then, so when would you use a biscuit jointer? Generally, biscuit jointers are used a lot in tabletops or countertops or tops in general, the construction of them, because they will keep the boards aligned when you're doing... They will keep the boards aligned when you're doing a top and a glue up, so you'd have biscuits in each edge of there, and when they butt up it would keep them boards nice and flat, as opposed to like that, or even worse, twisted. But yeah, the biscuits generally keep them aligned, and they're a brilliant tool for that. Like I say, the biscuits are very cheap as well, so when you comparison to your domino, your Festool domino, and your dowels are quite cheap as well, but getting them perfectly aligned is quite hard. I mean, even the doweling tool, the Triton one I've seen, there's a bit of variation in it, so there's very little variation in that, so perfect tool for me. Okay, so how would you set up, or how would I set up a biscuit jointer? Firstly, you want to make sure that your slot you're cutting is or corresponds to the biscuit you're using. So like I said, it's number 20 for me, so that's what it's set at. Secondly, depending on what you're using or what material thickness you're using, if you're using it straight out of the fence like this, you want to make sure that you're a perfect 90 degree to the cutting face. Okay. Generally, this one, where the blade comes out to the thickness of material I'm using, I use 18mm MDF, and you want to try and get the biscuit centered really. As long as it's, I mean, you don't really want it up there because there's not very much material. That's sort of common sense really. So you want to, if possible, all the time try and get it in the center of the stock you're using, and that would just obviously, if you're sanding back, not so much MDF because of the material, etc., but if you're sanding or planing back, you don't want to be going through. If it's very close to the top, you don't want to be going through to the biscuit because it'll be a different colour, and it's not not good procedure. So centre of the stock, and yeah, you just want to take it nice and steady. Don't rush, because obviously it's a very sharp blade in there that comes out. Although it's a very safe tool to use, you accidents can happen. So right, so when it comes to setting out for your biscuits, it couldn't be any easier. So for instance, right, we got 2 boards, tabletop, 2 flat boards to make a panel, whatever. You got your 2 boards, you line them up. You want, for this you wouldn't want to do any more, depends on the strength of course, but you'd put a biscuit there and we'll say a biscuit there. where the two biscuits are going, them two lines. And then all I do just to extend it is take my square, just extend those lines. You don't need to do this, you can use it with just them little ones, but I think this is just practice for me, or the norm, should I say. Just quickly do that one. Right. So generally what you would do is, if you were doing a panel, you would number the boards anyway, so the biscuits wouldn't get mixed up as well. So we'll just number these 1 and 2, just so we know where we're referencing from. And then it literally couldn't be easier. You just line up on this. There's a little centre slot, and that is centred to the blade that comes in. Sometimes you'll have your centre slot there, and there'll be another line there and another line there. That is normally the reference for where the biscuits stop and start. So if you're doing close to the edge of a board and that line is over, you know your biscuits are going to shoot through the side. So obviously you keep that in mind when you're doing it, but generally this will be fine. So you've got your centre line there, you've got your centre line on your biscuit, you line it up like that, and you just plunge in nice and safely, hands out of the way, so there's no damage in case this slips off. It won't, it's very rare it will happen, but it can happen, so just bear in mind. Okay, so your biscuits are, I was going to say your biscuits are slotted then. Your biscuits are cut, or your biscuit slots are cut. That's what I meant to say. Obviously you'd put a good amount of glue on there. You'd slip your biscuits in. They generally go in about halfway. So you've got half held on each side. You would line your slots up. Now, with biscuits, you'll notice there's a bit of wiggle room either side. Generally, they're nice and snug that way, but there's a bit of, there's not much, a couple of mil either side, but there is a bit of move for when you're aligning boards like that. So you'd get your two biscuits like that. Then you'd line it up, line your lines up, and then just slip on a cheeky clamp, if that holds, because it's a bit iffy on the sides like that. Put it that way, and that is as flat as a piece in one. So it does a beautiful job of aligning the boards, and that's the purpose I use it for, aligning boards. I'll show you another thing that I use it for, making the legs of my radiator covers. Okay folks, so the little jig that I have made for the legs I do on my biscuit jointer is just a simple flat piece of ply with a double thickness of the ply on the back edge, with a long rail for when I do my long legs. Oh, because I've got long legs. Couple of holes so I can screw it down to the bench. And the only critical part on this is you need to make sure that this is 90 degrees to the bed. It's got to be 90 degrees. If that runs out, when you're putting your board on, it's going to go out, which is going to put your joint out, which is horrible. So as long as that is perfectly 90 degrees to the bed, you'll be laughing. So when I do my legs, I'll have a front like that, and then depending on what size the customer wants the return, which will go into the wall on the leg, that's what size. This is one now cut, I think this is about 6-inch return. I do all my fronts the same size, so they're all 5 inches, and it will look like that. So there's no joints on the front. No joints on the front. The joint is on the side like that. So what I do with my legs is, when you're doing a return like this, now when I first done this took me bloody ages. I do it like it's second nature now. So you want to make sure that this biscuit for the back piece is the same distance from the edge of the front piece. I hope that makes sense. So on the leg, you want the front piece to be the same distance in from this edge, so when you push them up, there's no discrepancy in where the biscuit slots are. You want them to be perfect, so your edge is perfect. So what you want to do is you want to lay your boards with the face down. So you'd lay that one down like that, because this is the outside. Yeah, I've got to spell outside then. This is the outside and this is the outside. So you'd lay it down like that, lay that down like that. Mark for your biscuit slots, which we're going to go here and here. You will need to extend these lines because you won't be able to see the biscuit jointers, the marks on the biscuit jointer. So extend these lines. Like that. And then what I always do, just so I don't make a mess up and have to cut another leg, I always mark that the return is always cut on the edge, so I'll just put an X on that, so I know that's that there, and I know that these are always cut on the face. So with your board laid down with the marks facing up, take your jointer, and this is where the jig really comes into its own. You get your front leg, place it down, push it up against the edge. Now we know that this is 90 degrees, so that means the leg is now 90 degrees. And once again, working off the bottom of the biscuit jointer, we're going to cut our slots into the corresponding lines, and that will give us a perfectly cut joint. So that's the basic sort of SP on the biscuit jointers. If you're asking me if you're new to woodworking, beginner, hobbyist, DIYer, whatever, would you recommend a biscuit jointer? And the answer is yes, most certainly. They help me. I use them in my day-to-day as the trade. Making furniture, I use them a lot. They come in handy. They do reinforce mitre joints as well. They're perfect for mitre joints. You can swing this fence around to 45 for doing 45 mitres. They really are a very versatile tool if you use them in the right application. Like I say, that's a perfectly flat joint. There's no sort of a tiny light bit of sanding, and that's ready for sort of priming, you know. So yeah, if like I say, recommend one. If you're new to woodworking, get one. They're very easy, obviously power tool, so please take care when using it. I didn't, but use your dust extraction as well, especially when you're using MDF. My vacuum's still broken, so I couldn't, and I don't know where the bag is, but anyway. So yeah, what I'm gonna do, I know I said in the video I will, but I haven't made a jig. I'll do a separate video for that, a quick video. I won't talk because it's very simple, straight cuts, glue, screw, jobs are good. So yeah, thanks for watching, folks. I really hope you liked the video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know and we can work on the problems if there is any. If you haven't already, please, and you're just flying through, please consider subscribing. If you are already subscribed, don't forget to click on the bell icon, and that will notify you when I put something new up. Share it, tell your friends, would really appreciate the love. And I will see you on the next video, folks. Have a good evening, night, day, weekend, whenever. See you later, folks.